Incidentally, if you install it, don't take it out of the country. Bad things could happen. On wireless routers, use WPA. A lot of wireless routers ship with multiple wireless encryption protocols, including WEP or WEP. WEP is broken. I think it takes 3 minutes or so to crack, so don't use it. Don't use an unsecured network. If you're at like some Starbucks or something and they've got free Wi-Fi, well, if it's not encrypted at all, just know that anyone can see anything that's not going through a secure channel like HTTPS. So be very careful. And at home, use WPA. Just go check your router settings and make sure that you're using that. WPA isn't going to make sure that everything is always secure, but at least from your computer to the router, it's going to be very difficult for anyone to get that information. Now, this is something I worked on, and I pushed a little bit the boundaries of what this program can do. This is a demonstration. How many of you have heard that you should use a random password? How many have heard, don't use a password based on an actual word? Okay. This is going through the possibilities. The dictionary is already done. I'm just using lowercase letters, so I'm just using 26 different possibilities, and it's a 4-character password. The dictionary went through all 2,200, 2,300 words that I have in my dictionary, and it's over. The substitution is using all the words from the dictionary, but doing one mutation on it. And then the brute force, thanks to Transformers for making it sound like it was a good idea, brute force will always succeed if you give it long enough. But even on 4 characters, this is going to take about 5 minutes, and we probably won't wait for it. Oh, it might take less than that. Anyway, it takes a long time. And if you add in more characters, it starts getting slower and slower and slower. So you can just get a longer password, and it takes that much longer. But if you use something that a substitution attack can handle, then all of a sudden, look, we have Tusk, 1-letter change, and they'll obviously do O to 0, L to 1, like the obvious ones. They're going to do those. Like, people have thought of this. So, really? Yeah, surprise. So, eventually the brute force will get there. Now, if you have more characters, and you have and you choose from a greater pool, so it's not just lowercase, but using numbers and symbols and so on, you're going to do a lot better. But the only way to guarantee that the brute force is the only way to get your password is to use something entirely random. So there are programs that will generate random passwords for you. They're not that difficult to remember, and it turns out they work really well. I just write them down and leave them in my wallet, because I figure if I have to get new credit cards, changing my passwords isn't a big deal. So this is the number of possible things on just the 26 letters of the alphabet, 4 characters long. The brute force has to consider nearly 500,000 possibilities. The dictionary, 2,300. The substitution, about half of that. And as you get longer passwords, the discrepancy grows. It grows very quickly. And so, choose a reasonably long password and make it random. If you really, really can't handle random, at least take a sentence and take the first letter of every word. It's a lot better than words, but it's still possible to crack it. So what if they get you? Change all your passwords. Make sure you're using different passwords for everything. I know it's a pain, but it's important because then people can't use the password they stole from you to do something else. Scan your computer for viruses. Make sure that you keep your computer up to date. Macs aren't immune. It's just that people don't bother targeting them most of the time. So make sure that whatever type of computer you have, whatever type of phone you have that's a big deal now, keep it up to date. And if it is serious, the FBI actually has a division that investigates just this sort of thing. So if they're actually defrauding you, if like bad things are happening, talk to someone about it. Talk to the authorities because they do want to know and it is important.
So, like when I'm traveling and in a hotel and getting on their wireless thing, when you say they have access to what I'm doing, they have full access, so when I'm typing in my credit card account password, they can just record that and log on? Like, what do you mean?
Okay, so when you are connected wirelessly, what happens is, like my computer has this little radio in it that's my wireless card. So my computer can send and receive signals over the radio. Now radio, as we know, just kind of goes everywhere. So if I'm sending the signals over this radio band and there's no encryption on it at all, anybody who has a similar radio, that is anybody who has a wireless card, which is everyone in this room probably owns something with a wireless card, if not 4 things, phone, computer, whatnot, can, if it's set up correctly, just read everything that you're sending across the network. And so with the proper attention to detail, the ability to filter out what's actually relevant, I can pick anything you send. Now, if you set up, for example, HTTPS session, so that's security built into your in the way you're sending and receiving information on your browser. So you go to your bank's website, you type in your password and whatnot. It doesn't send it just plain. It first encrypts it in a way that they can't read it, and then sends it, and then the bank decrypts it, and then they'll send information back that's encrypted, and only you can read it. That's what encryption is all about. It's hiding information. It's transforming it in a way that only the intended recipient can read it.
Okay. So even technically they have access to what I'm typing, it's encrypted before they can see it.
They don't have access, yeah, they don't have access directly to what you're typing.
Yeah.
They have access to the encrypted form,
That's sent. Okay.
and we don't care if people see what's encrypted.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Is that how, because you were talking about spam earlier,
Mm-hmm.
but is that also how viruses are sent?
Viruses can be sent in all sorts of different ways. What a virus has to do successfully to infect your computer is it has to find some way of getting access to your computer. So if you install it, like if you install some program that has a virus in it, that is a virus or that has one kind of hooked into it, then you're giving it access to your computer and it can run whatever it wants. And then it'll set itself up so it runs when you start your computer, and it'll take measures to hide itself maybe and do all sorts of things. There are other things that can happen. That's why the updates are so important. The software that's been written for, say, Windows or Mac OS, or Linux as well, they need it to run really fast because the stuff that's going on in the core happens millions of times maybe per second. And so even a tiny slowdown is going to grow as the little slowdown adds up. And so they write it in C, which is a really old language, but that has the possibility of some serious security flaws. It's not the only language. I mean, you can have security flaws in other languages. But because they have these ways that people can hook in. So if I have this program that's written in this old language and it's not done right and it's really, really hard to do it right, then I can access that program in some way and tweak it and make it do something it's not intended to do, and all of a sudden, I took over the computer. And most of the updates we have are actually patching those holes. So somebody's identified, oh, there's a security flaw in this particular tiny bit of Windows, and if people send exactly this information over the network, encrypted or not, it'll be able to take over. And so they find a way to fix it, and then they send that out, and it changes the way that your computer runs so that you're not susceptible to that. The same thing can happen with all of them. Mac OS does have some interesting things. Actually, they all kind of have address. They have some things built in that make it more difficult to do that, but you can never be absolutely sure that your program is perfect. Yeah, I'm hoping that my research will solve that. But at least at present, there's no way we can be absolutely sure, and so you just need to keep up to date and make sure you're patching stuff as frequently as you can. Sean?
I'm just curious because in addition to the whole spamming thing, we have obviously there are people that their email has been, I guess, hacked into, and they're sending spams galore to them.
Okay.
All right. What should a person that's under that do? Should they delete that account, or is there something they can do to clean it out?
Most accounts, if you change your password, all of your saved sessions. So say you're on Gmail and somehow you managed to get it to not do HTTPS, which I tried the other day and couldn't get it to do. So I managed to snoop your Google login session. If you change your password, standard procedure is to invalidate all of the sessions, and you need a new session to be able to communicate. So you just change your password. It says everybody who was logged in, or all the computers who are logged in, are no longer logged in until they type in the new password. So just changing the password should do it. That, especially for any webmail based thing. If you have, there are other ways that you might be able to log into things that do email, but if you know about them, you probably know how to deal with them as well.
Yeah.
So things like
That's a good answer. That's a pretty good